I believe so.
Okay. In accordance with the open meetings law, the Lake Hopatcong Commission has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof delivered or mailed or electronically mailed to the following: the Daily Record, or posted on the Lake Hopatcong Commission website. You got a flag for us, Colleen? There we go. Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to
of
the United States of America,
To the
and to
Republic,
the republic
for which it stands,
Stands one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you very much. You want to call the roll, please?
Sure. Commissioner Crowley,
Here.
Fish,
Here.
Hoferkamp,
Here.
McCarthy, Ozowski,
Here.
Probs,
Here.
Steinbaum,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Tessier,
Here.
Will Susan,
Here.
Castellon,
Here.
Gilfillan, Hirschfeld,
Here.
Sellaro,
Here.
Senator, Zochek. See Dan McCarthy just hopped on, and Smith.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, we have motion, we don't have no need for executive session, correct?
No.
Okay. Approval, look for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Does anybody have any comments, questions, additions, deletions? You call a roll, please.
Commissioner Crowley,
Yes.
Fish,
Abstain.
Hoferkamp,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Wazowski,
Yes.
Probs,
Yes.
Steinbaum,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Castellon.
Yes.
Let's see. Guess that's, Will Susan
Abstain.
and Smith.
You forgot me. Yes, okay. All
Getting
right,
there.
okay. Brad, you got a treasurer's report, and list of bills to present us?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a balance in the account as of today, but there are 12 bills outstanding totaling $16,724. And that's all I have for you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on any of the bills on that list?
Yes, on the insurance contract,
Mhm.
I think the premium was $1,075. Is that in line with last year?
I think it's about $100 more.
One of the phrase that was on there was that they added bodily injury and property damage exclusion. I'm not sure about that, and it made me think about the accident that we had. And if we're in charge of the harbor, are we covered for liability for an accident like that? Did they add that coverage, or did they delete it? It was confusing.
Fred, I think we added the Boston Whaler because we had to insure that, because remember, it wasn't ours before. We took back control of it, so we had to insure it.
We never, since it was never on the water, we never insured it.
We never
So I
insured
don't, no, because we never put it on the water this year. And we still need the title so that we
Okay.
can for
Get
next
the
year.
title, but I got to tell you this, Colleen, on the spur of the moment, somebody wants to put that boat in the water, they're going to do it. And then you better be insured. It can't cost that much versus the risk of that boat goes on here and somebody else runs into it, we have an accident and we're not insured.
Hey, it's not that inexpensive for a boat with that much horsepower. Ron, it's a powerful boat.
I get it, but I don't want to have any, if we're not going to insure it, my vote would be, don't put that boat in the water.
No, I would agree.
Yeah, but find out what it costs. We were supposed to get from that guy, Marty, what was that guy's name in Dover?
Bill Schuler over at H.O. Baker.
Schuler, yeah.
I sent him a couple messages and I haven't gotten, after our initial conversation, I haven't gotten any response.
Okay. All right, we'll follow up. I'll follow up with that.
That phrasing just referred to that boat. It had nothing to do with harvesters.
I don't know about that because we know, the DNO wouldn't cover the this is only for DNO insurance. So I don't think that would have anything to do with the boat. But I can ask Fairview Insurance about that.
Yeah.
It only covers actions of the directors and officers of the commission.
We must have an errors on omission policy. I'm sure that's in there somewhere, Bob, but we should just double check.
Yeah, I think we need to really check up on that.
Colleen, would you please send me a copy of that policy they sent you? Email it to me.
Sure. They didn't. Okay, so they didn't send a whole package. They just sent the renewal. But
Tell them to send
I
the package and then we'll have the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else about the bills? Would you call a roll, please?
I just want to understand, is the motion to approve all of the bills or to remove the insurance?
I don't know. You're
And
insured
approve all.
if you don't pay that bill. How much was that in question, Fred?
1,075.
Yeah, 1,075.
First, they're reliable. They've been around. You had them for years here before I even got on the commission.
Yeah, I think we can pay it, but we need to investigate.
Yes, that's why I want a copy of the policy because we always get a credit. I would pay it. I don't want to be with up.
Good.
Okay, would you call a roll, please?
Who made the motion? Sorry.
So moved, I'll move it.
Bob Tessier moved it.
We need a second.
I'll second it. It's more Crowley.
Okay.
Thanks. Commissioner Crowley,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hoferkamp,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Wazowski,
Yes.
Probs,
Yes.
Steinbaum,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Will Susan,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. We got any correspondence for us?
Yes, so the land use applications, although there haven't been any in a few weeks, will be available on the OneDrive account as they usually are. We received a weed harvesting supply list and personnel update from Melissa Castellon.
Okay.
And that will be brought up later in the meeting. From Keefe Law Firm, we received a request to preserve evidence in connection with the weed harvesting accident. And then we received the insurance renewal notice from Scottish American, and from Jessica Murphy, we received a letter since she stepped down, just expressing her gratitude in the relationship that's been built between the foundation and commission. And she looks forward to seeing everyone, in the future as a volunteer with the foundation.
Okay.
Question.
Sure.
Is there any evidence that we need to preserve?
We don't have anything really. I mean,
This would be a discussion for executive session.
Wait a minute.
Sure.
In the first place, Dan, I don't want to, they didn't work for us and it wasn't our boat. We have nothing to produce.
I don't think we should discuss it at all.
Well, why not? Don't let it go because we have nothing to do with it.
It'd be good to have a response and talk about it in executive session sometime.
Okay.
Sorry, Chairman.
Okay. What else we got?
How do we stand on the investigation? Has anybody heard the time frame or?
No, because we tried to get the boat released. Melissa was kind enough to write another letter. Colleen requested her to write another letter to tell them to let us put the boat inside to preserve it from the cold weather. No response yet.
Okay, so that's all the correspondence I had.
Okay. Chairman's report. Okay. Two things. I'm glad we did get a little bit of weed harvesting in, even though with the third party, even though it wasn't great, but at least I think I heard some people say they were at least happy that we did something, even if it wasn't a big thing. And the other good thing that moving along, I had a chance to meet with Melissa and Colleen and Mike and someone who is a retired diesel mechanic. I think I brought this up at the last meeting. We met up at the garage. He was interested in the position. He's very experienced, licensed, all this stuff, and retired. He was willing to work part-time, and he was willing to work for $19 an hour. And I think after we had a short talk there, maybe an hour, Melissa invited him for an interview on Friday. And I believe Melissa told me or told us that they offered him the position and he took the papers to fill out to send to Trenton to get the mechanic back, even if it's part-time. It's not full-time that Kurt was, but at least somebody to work over the winter to get that equipment back in shape. And Melissa can add more to that if she knows more. I'm sure she does.
You basically summed it up, Ron. We're just waiting for him to bring the packet back so we could forward it and have him get on payroll.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's, the glass is half full. It's not full, but at least we got something going and we're going to get something on those machines going. Now, it'd be really great if we could get that big harvester back inside, but again, they're holding on to it for some reason. Who knows? Okay, that's all I have.
Ron, I have a question.
Sure.
With the harvester being out all winter, what did Mike say about that?
Well, he said that, well, we're all convinced, and so is this mechanic that came. We're sure because the boat was upside down, there's water in the motor, and if the water freezes, it's going to crack the block. His nobody will really know till we take it apart, but his, if I remember, top of his head, that you'd need, it would be cheaper to buy a new motor and take that motor out, and then we could cannibalize it and maybe keep the parts because the other three boats have the same engine. So Mike thought they could cannibalize it and use some of the parts in the future. But one way or the other, he thought, top of his head again, that it would be cheaper and quicker to change the motor than it was to fix it. So yes, there's water in it, and that's a bad thing. It could crack the block, and maybe we could have saved the block, but we're at their mercy, and we've certainly asked enough times.
So we're not involved then with withholding evidence as.
No, of course not. We have no evidence. We don't own anything, so we don't have any evidence to hold. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking down the road about, because it seems like if we bring it inside, we're tampering with evidence. Isn't that the argument?
We're not going to bring it in until they give us written permission to bring it in. We're definitely not bringing it in until they tell us.
But I mean, they're not giving permission because they don't want to tamper with evidence.
I don't know why they didn't give it, because they didn't come to some decision as to how it happened, I guess, and I don't know when that'll happen. But when it does, and they give us something and answer Melissa in an email or something and tell us it's okay, Mike will put it on a trailer and pull it inside. So up until that day, we don't want to touch it.
But that won't be, that'll be DEP that's putting it inside.
And now, just so everyone's aware, this isn't at DEP's request. If it was up to us, we would move it indoors, but we've been told that we can't move anything until.
I know you were. I'm telling you, we're just following instructions. You're right. Or not instructions. We don't have permission to move it. So
Right.
we're not going to move it till we get permission written.
So it's outside of even DEP on this one.
Excuse me?
It's outside of DEP.
Oh, it is. Okay. Wherever it is, it is. Okay.
But to clarify, the commission is not going to be moving it.
No, not until they tell us we can move it.
Then you're not going to move it either. DEP is going to move it, right?
No, we're going to put it on a trailer and pull it in. It's right in the parking lot there. It's right outside the door.
Well, that speaks to the letter we got.
Well, no, that would be DEP that would be moving it, not us. We don't move it. The
Well-
DEP moves it.
Right, that's what.
Yes, yes. You know why DEP is going to move it? Because Mike works for DEP. He don't work for us. You're right. DEP will be
I
moving it.
just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Yeah, we have no employees, so Mike will be moving it. Exactly. Good point, Robert. Okay, anybody have anything, commissioners going around the table?
I do. Mayor Stanzilis of Mount Arlington formed a Green Infrastructure Committee and to explore what the DEP requirements for 2021 will involve to us. So we're having our first meeting Friday. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good.
Go get them in.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's another step toward standardizing things.
Yeah, that's good. You're right.
So I will, of course, report to the commission what Mount Arlington has come up with.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Eric,
Nope, nothing here.
you lit up. I thought you were going to talk.
No, I think my wife was walking by.
I have some stuff, but it's just on, well, am I muted or not?
Go ahead.
Just on the land use committee. We'll talk about that later in the agenda.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to Melissa. You up the grant? What do we got?
Foundation.
Foundation, Marty. I'm sorry. How could I forget Marty?
Thank you. Okay, just a few assorted items to run through. We've put a temporary hold on our
Marty,
advocacy efforts around the election, so we'll get back to that once, obviously, the goal is still to bring anybody that we can drag up to like a pack.
Voice is going bad.
Yeah, it's breaking up.
Oh, am I okay?
No.
No.
Hang on.
Might want to try pausing your, like turning off your video. It might help with your audio.
He's frozen.
How's that?
That could be better. Keep talking. Let's see how it
We
goes.
good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the advocacy efforts will resume as soon as the dust settles, and, you know, the goal is still to bring any elected official we can to Lake Hopatcong to show them what we have and, you know, what we're trying to do.
Are you poising or frozen?
He's frozen.
Is that a hamburger?
Dramatic pause.
Yeah,
You see a hamburger?
very dramatic.
Yeah. Maybe you ought to try to sign out and come back in.
I had those gremlins last month.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's Marty be frozen. We'll So we move on to Fred at Princeton Hydro until he signed out. Let's see if he comes back quick.
Can I say something in the moment?
Sure.
I didn't have dinner yet, and Todd, your poster of that burger is making me crazy.
Todd, are you at a McDonald's? Where are you?
That is an antique Big Mac poster.
Hey, Mark.
What can I say? I got to pay the bills.
All right.
You're back.
I'm not sure where you lost me, but
You're about
the next
elected.
Voting Regulation Commission is July 14th at that we will be hosting at Lake Hopatcong at 9:30 in the morning. So we are on the slate to host another meeting this coming year. Hopefully, we'll be having live meetings at that point. Our block party, we've definitely taken the steps that we're not going to have it in the spring, especially after, we've spoken with Parks and Forestry. So right now, fingers crossed, the next block party for Lake Hopatcong will be in October of 2021. We continue our own internal executive director search. Hopefully we'll have more for you at the next meeting. And our board has met, and one of the things in view of the current situation and also the incredible success that the Liffey Island Trail has been having, the Jim Leach Trail, the popularity, is to feature some of the other trails at Lake Hopatcong, since people are taking so much use of them at the lake. So we're working on plans right now in the spring to kind of feature a different trail every week that people can take, and we'll run walks with them, because usually a lot of people want to go with you on a trail first before they just go out on their own. But I have to say, kudos to Jefferson with the Jimmy Leach Trail. Every time I've been on it recently, I cannot get over how many people are using it. And certainly from the foundation and and I'll wear the museum hat on this also. We're happy to work with you as far as on anything you want to do on the island itself with your future plans. But that really has been a huge success this year. So I think that's what we have. Any questions? I'll be happy to try to take them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Marty.
you.
Dr. Fred?
Okay, all right. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And I actually forwarded a update to Colleen and Marty and Donna earlier today. So I'm going to use that as the springboard for my presentation. So just right off the bat, just to let everyone know, the Lake Hopatcong, Lake Musconetcong WIP, the Watershed Implementation Plan, is done. That will be sent out to the commission as well as the New Jersey Highlands Council shortly. So like I said, it's finished. It would just need to be formatted and put in a PDF document. So it's a pretty huge document. It has a lot of appendices, but everything will be available in PDF. So that basically is going to be the plan we're using to move forward on seeking funding for stormwater projects and additional watershed projects. Something I do want to let everyone know, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with this, we've been having some extremely warm weather, and a number of our clients over the last week have been calling about concerns over halves. We've been getting some photos, and I heard today some people in sections of Lake Hopatcong were concerned over halves. So yes, the warm weather allows those blue-green algae, the cyanobacteria, to bloom. We're supposed to get some rain on Wednesday, and then it's going to start to become cooler again, so that should subside those blooms. They should reduce. But just to let you know, you're not the only one who is dealing with this. This is something we're seeing with a number of our clients in Pennsylvania as well as in New Jersey. I started on the review of the Corey consultant report. I should have that complete by early next week. We are working on prices for the potential dredging project for the state funding to put that in for the supplemental environmental program. So I have a number of our people, our engineers and wetland scientists, putting the prices together for estimates of dredging on the north end of the lake. In addition to that, we've met with the representatives from the commission, Colleen, as well as the foundation, about preparing for some NIFWIF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grants. They have not been announced yet, but we want to be in a position where we're ahead of the game, because they really don't give you too much time to get these applications together. And some of the locations we're looking at to do projects, we would need approval from the state. So we're working with the New Jersey Highlands Council to see if we can possibly get matching funds for doing some of the design work. But again, this is to implement some of those stormwater projects and some of those stream bank stabilization projects that are identified in the WIP. If you don't know, Mount Arlington was awarded their beach restoration plan grant application by the New Jersey Highlands Council in October. So I reached out to Mount Arlington. We'll be forwarding them a contract for that work. What's nice about that, as part of that plan, we are doing some engineering design work for the stream that leaves a Memorial Pond and connects to Lake Hopatcong. So as part of, since we're using the plan to develop those engineering designs, that can be a match for the NIFWIF grant. So what we're hoping to do is we can do some of the engineering with the existing grants, use that at a match for a NIFWIF grant to get a larger sum of money to actually implement that project. I need to sit down with Clay and review. Clay's one of our project engineers. He oversees the engineering program, and review some of the stormwater detention projects that we've talked about in Roxbury. We'd like to put together a grant application. Again, the Highlands Council money can be used for design and for engineering. It cannot be used for implementation or permitting, but it could be a very effective match if we can find implementation funds. Also today, I forwarded that package from Greenvest. So Greenvest is that organization that was talking about possibly securing larger sums of money for implementation of various stormwater projects and watershed projects. And I'm not sure, there may be a representative from Greenvest at this meeting, and they will definitely be available at December's meeting as well to take any questions once the commissioners, you've had a time to review that document that was forwarded to Colleen today. So we'll make sure that everyone gets a copy of that. And then just a few more things. One is we're currently crunching all of the data we've collected over the growing season through the HAB grant. DEP is very excited and interested in looking at the data, so we're working through it now. As a matter of fact, this Friday, I'll be giving a presentation on Lake Hopatcong's HAB grant at the New Jersey American Water Works and Resource Association webinar. If you're interested, let me know. I can forward you the information on that webinar. I think it costs maybe $40 if you're not a member, $20 if you are a member, but there'll be a 2-3 hour webinar, and they're going to go through each one of the HAB grants that were awarded, going through what projects are being implemented. So that will be the first time I'll be presenting some of the data that we've collected on Lake Hopatcong. I'll also be presenting next week at a webinar for the North American Lake Management Society. And again, I'll be talking about Lake Hopatcong and the HAB grant. And then finally, speaking of the HAB grant, so I mentioned we're crunching through all the data. We're basically done for the growing season. The only thing we're doing now is we've installed the air curtain aeration system last week. I think there's a few little things that have to be done this week, and then we'll also be installing at Lake Forest the nanobubble ozone system. So we'll have 2 of the 3 aeration systems installed. So once we hit spring of next year, we'll be very proactive. We'll be able to turn those units on, and they'll be up and going. And again, next year is the second year of the HAB grant. We'll be evaluating the effectiveness of those systems. So the HAB grant is basically 2 years long. The only other thing I want to mention is, we've gotten some of the results from the biochar. The biochar was pretty good at removing phosphorus in the streams. We were getting about 50% removal. But where we were seeing some really high removal rates is in Memorial Pond and Duck Pond. Both of those water bodies drain directly into Lake Hopatcong, as well as Ashley Cove. We installed some in there. And we were getting some high removal rates of between 80 and 90%. And that's essentially what the manufacturer said, is the longer you have the contact time, the more effective the material is at removing the nutrients. So we're going to reevaluate next year. We may be installing the biochar, maybe not necessarily within the streams, but where the streams actually enter the lake to have that longer contact time. We are also working on getting a new bid to clean out the aquafilters and replace them with the filter media. I'm still really pushing to have that project done before the end of this year. So once we go into spring, we can start the stormwater monitoring on using the biochar in those larger systems in the borough of Hopatcong and see how effective they are. So we're moving forward on that. And the only other thing I want to mention is we don't have the final contract yet, but we did provide information to DEP on the commission's 319 grant. We're hoping that that grant contract with DEP will be finalized over the winter so we can start work. We can start quantifying the internal phosphorus load for the lake over the winter with the existing data we have. We can go right into spring with installation of some of those new stormwater projects, floating wetland islands, and more biochar. So there's a lot going on, and we're also, looking for, both the commission and foundation and the towns and the counties. We're always looking for potential sources of funding to continue implementing these projects as they're identified in the WIP. So I know that was a lot of information, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I had a question, Fred, about the WIP. Now, that document's prepared by you for DEP?
Yes.
And is that approved by anybody, or?
So that will be, so DEP will give it its blessing. And the key to it is that we have the 9 elements of the plan. So remember the restoration plan that was completed back in 2006, it was actually completed before EPA and DEP had the 9 elements of a WIP.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why we updated it. Since we have those 9 elements, it shouldn't be no problem for both DEP and EPA to approve that document. And then what that does is that makes the opportunities for funding for you increase because you have an approved WIP.
And that WIP was paid for by a grant from DEP?
No, actually, that was what was really nice was that was a grant that was paid by the New Jersey Highlands Council. So that's why they're getting a copy of it as well. So it was really nice that we had that opportunity to put the WIP together with funding through the Highlands.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, two things I just wanted to mention I forgot, and Fred just reminded me. Jefferson did get $100,000 from the Highlands Council to do an update of our sewer plan from 2002. John Rushke did that plan back then. He's still an engineer. He's actually our land use engineer, but he's going to be updating that plan once the money comes through. And Marty forgot to mention we have a mayor's meeting, Lake Hopatcong mayor's meeting next Monday, as we've been meeting regularly just to help support the lake and make sure we're all on the same page. So we have that coming up as well.
No, that's thank you for bringing that up. And to dovetail on that, just to let you know, I did in the WIP, I did mention that Jefferson is investigating and looking to do a feasibility study, on potential sewering. So I did mention that. I also mentioned in the WIP the sewering of those select number of homes at Hopatcong. So I tried to keep the document as current as possible, but thank you for bringing that up. That's great news because that could really provide some added insight on the value of sewering, your community and how that will positively impact the lake.
Right. Thank you both for that update. That's great. Anybody else still have any questions for Fred? Okay, let's move on to update. State Park, Melissa.
Hi there. You've probably mentioned most of it. So right now, as far as the weed harvesting program goes, we only have Mike Calderio on staff reporting to work. He will be needing to take up some benefit time in the next couple months, so just making you aware of that. The 3 hourlies that we had over the summer, their last reporting days were at the end of October. So they won't be back till start of spring, probably around the end of May. We did that to be able to preserve some of their hours so they can come back in May. And as Ron mentioned, we did interview the one gentleman and have gone ahead and provided him with the hiring packet to get him on board. I've also gone ahead and posted a vacancy, an additional vacancy for another hourly, hopefully to hire for the winter to help Michael and this new gentleman. So hopefully there'll be 3 individuals working out of the Franklin building for the winter months to help get things going. As far as lake status goes, Cranberry Lake, Lake Musconetcong, we continue to monitor and adjust to maintain the lowered water levels at those lakes. And Lake Hopatcong, as of today, was very close to full pool. We're scheduled to begin lowering next week at Lake Hopatcong. And you guys already have the other document that I sent you that you guys are going to review. If you have any questions on that, let me know. Also provided a budget last week to Ron and Colleen as a result of that report. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Melissa, so the hiring freeze is off?
Well, we had been told that we could hire as needed. You know, we're essential where there's a need. So we went ahead and, since the commission supported it, and there was an opportunity, we figured we'd try to do this and move forward with it. When the documents get forwarded, if there's an issue, I'll be sure to let the commission know.
I appreciate your cooperation through this whole process. You know, Fred, one of the things, they had a freeze, but I tried to make the point with them, it doesn't cost them any money to hire these people because we're reimbursing them for it. So really the freeze shouldn't have had any effect on this, theoretically, you know, budget-wise.
So if I could just clarify though, the freeze, we're talking about 2 things here. The freeze was on full-time employees. We always had the ability to hire seasonal employees.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And
Thank
it
you,
looks
Josh.
like there is some relief from the full-time employee freeze, but things are trickling through very slowly.
Yeah. But again, it should be helpful that we're willing to reimburse for it, so it doesn't really cost them anything, so. Okay, thank you, Melissa. Anybody have any questions for Melissa? Josh, you're up.
Sure. So really the only update I have is that we will have our next Citizen Advisory Committee meeting next Tuesday. Many of you, some of you are on that committee, so we'll look forward to the next steps with that.
Good.
How do we register for that? Is it a virtual meeting?
I'll be sending out an invite probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Josh? Fred, is this a good time for you to jump in with your agenda item, or?
Yeah, I can. Although there's a couple other items ahead of me. Do you want me to do that?
I'll go in order. I don't have that in front of me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, Colleen, what's next on the agenda? My copy didn't come through.
We have grant updates, which Fred
Yeah,
covered
grant
most of
update.
them.
We covered, yeah, I kind of think we covered the grant stuff, yeah.
The only thing I would add is just related to the rain garden program. We had some help from the foundation in sending out a survey to all the participants just to see, you know, if they participated in the initial workshop, why did they or didn't they choose to move forward into the design workshop, and if they took the design workshop, why did they or didn't they choose to actually install a rain garden? So so Donna helped a lot with that, and the foundation actually sent out that survey. So we should have some results, you know, in the next couple weeks about
Good.
the rain garden program.
Right.
And then, Ron, we have the committee updates on the agenda.
Yes, the committee updates. Go ahead.
Land use.
Yep.
So we had a good land use meeting. We're continuing with the planners and the land use committee to work on, new development and site plans and subdivisions around the lake. Ken Nelson's working on a procedure as a letter. I don't know if he sent it out yet or not, Colleen, but to go out and to begin so that there can be a point when we'll get the applications the same time as other professionals in the municipalities get it. So there's adequate time to review and perhaps comment while the project is still being developed. And then the second item we talked about, I don't know what kind of message, if it was understandable, that Fred got, Dr. Lubno got, with regards to looking at a proposal from Princeton Hydro to give us information about specific designs that municipalities could require in site plans, looking at some specific existing projects that have been approved and what kind of other methods could be used, vegetative methods or design methods to reduce, and also to provide us with some data as to why stormwater runoff and the phosphorus levels it produces are so important to the quality of the lake. So that's not the whole outline, but I think Colleen had an outline, and I don't know if Fred understood what we were looking for or not, but the committee thought we should get a proposal because we need that kind of specificity to go back to the towns.
Yeah, and I can mention that, so I'm not directly associated with that, but Clay, one of our engineers, and then Jack, one of our environmental scientists, they've been talking with the commission and Colleen about, because they're the ones who have the experience doing the site plan reviews. So I did talk to Jack today, and he did give me a quick update. And he basically said what you just spoke about right now.
Okay, so if we get an outline to the land use committee, then we can see if that's what we want, and then we get some proposal, and then we'll come back to the board chairman about what we think it would be and what it would cost and how it would be helpful for the quality of the lake.
Great.
That's it.
How about the ice retardant? Dan, Fred, who's Dan?
Ann, are you there?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my mic. I understood that we would be meeting with the mayor's committee shortly, and I have had some discussions with Commissioner Hopatcong as well concerning some of his concerns that he expressed at last month's meeting. And unfortunately, with my computer having gremlins last month, I don't know who heard, what I had to say, if any of it or some of it or all of it, but I did have a conversation with Commissioner Hopatcong, and maybe at some point our committee can meet with him just so we can just review what we've come up with, because he does have some interesting comments and some suggestions, and I don't want to steal his thunder. If he has something to add, I'm sure he will. But I think our next official meeting would be with the mayors, and we're waiting for, I guess, notice of that.
Dan, I sent out notice. That meeting is next Monday.
Okay, I must have missed that. Is that by Zoom? Are we going to get a link, or how's that going to work?
It'll be by Zoom. I don't know if I have a link yet, but I'm sure one will be sent. And
Marty will get you a link.
Yep.
Are we on the agenda, Colleen?
I don't think the full agenda has been set, but yes, the Ice Return System Committee should be on that agenda.
One other thing I did discuss with Commissioner Hopatcong is, regardless of what we do and when we do it, we still do think that we should continue and push with our public education campaign. I know we had those little cards printed. I'm running low. I'd like to get more. Do we have enough to carry us forward to send out to anybody that we might need to hand them out to, Colleen? Is there enough in the inventory on your end?
I have some cards. I don't.
Yeah, I believe so. I had to clear out the commission office so they could start the mold remediation. But they are up at the Franklin building, and I could get some more if you need them. Too.
I think I have some too, Colleen.
Yeah.
What would it cost for a mailing to send those cards to every lakefront homeowner? And what's the possibility for doing that? Or is that something we should maybe perhaps talk about at the mayor's meeting?
Talk about the mayor's meeting.
We could do that.
I think if we want to do mailers, those, that maybe at the next committee meeting, because the time on those mayor's meetings is really tight, and I think we have quite a bit to cover. But if you want to do mailers, I could look into what the cost might be to the commission.
I think that would be advisable because there's no harm in that, and I think it could only help.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on ice retardant? What do we got next, Colleen?
The weed harvesting. So I don't think Brian is here, but the Northern Lights did send some before and after photos of the most recent harvesting that they did in near Herd Cove. So I thought I could just put those up on the screen so people could see if they didn't have time to review it.
Yeah, do that.
And then the public can kind of see what the before. Oop, that didn't work. Did it? Can you see my screen?
I don't see anything.
It just said you've started.
Yeah.
Screen sharing, but
Started the process, but no pictures. There we
there
go.
you are.
Here we go.
Well, that's not it. Why isn't that
That's
working?
it. That's it.
How's
That's it.
that?
Okay.
Here we go. Yep.
Okay, so these were some before and afters. You can see, how the weeds were in the beginning and what they look like after over here. Again, before and after around this little peninsula. And then again, these are all the befores up top and after. So they did do a good job of clearing out some of the weeds that were in this area around the lake, around the docks. I think in total they got, just under 10 cubic yards for the day, maybe between 7 and 10. The before and afters here. You can see the weeds were up to the surface. And then this is the process. So this is a weed-do harvester up in the top left. It's much smaller than the ones that the commission and DEP have. And then he used a pontoon boat to transport weeds to a container that he had on a ramp at one of the marinas in the area.
Let me jump in a minute, Colleen. He did mention that in that container he's putting the weeds, they had holes in there and they drained that water and they lost significant weight over the next day or two, which is good.
Yeah,
you're paying to dispose of it by weight. If we can get that water out before we drop them, that's a big thing for us.
Yeah, this pontoon boat that he's had made into a transport barge is it's all, the deck has holes all through it so that the weeds drain back in to the lake as it's driven, to be unloaded. So that was all the photos. I just thought, people might find that interesting.
Yeah, it was something, it wasn't what we might have done, but it was better than nothing. It's good PR, and we did do some things. So great.
Right.
Thanks, Colleen.
Can I comment?
Sure.
I think the machines are quite small, but they're quite efficient for small areas, especially in shallow areas. The problem is that again, it's confined to small areas to be efficient, and it becomes fairly expensive. I suggested to him that if he can figure out a way to make it more efficient, we might be able to partner in convincing people who are now using chemicals in coves to hire him to come in instead a couple of times a year and do harvesting and maybe using less chemicals in the lake. So he's
Good idea. Yeah.
going to see if that might be, if he can make it cost efficient for these people, it will be a lot healthier for the lake. So that's something I hope that can happen.
Colleen, did you say the total amount of harvested weeds was 10 cubic yards?
Yes, it wasn't, I mean, it was just a, maybe like 6 hours that he was out there.
Okay.
So,
No, just because I always calculate how much phosphorus is removed from any harvesting. So I know it's going to be a small amount, but I still want to
yeah.
make sure the lake gets that credit for that.
Yeah, I think it'd be between 7 and 10. And so there were 2 days. Once was up near Raccoon Island, and this was the second day in Herd Cove. So you could estimate, between 14 and 20 cubic yards probably.
Okay, thank you.
Colleen, remind us, what was the total cost to the commission?
So for the second day, that was around 1,700. It was in the list of bills there.
1725.
1725, yeah.
Actually wasn't that expensive for what they got.
Right.
Colleen did something very clever. She figured out the total cost for weed harvesting, comparing it with the amount that's harvested over the year, and came up with a number. And it showed how it was much more efficient for our harvesters in our program than for what he was able to do, at least in these couple of days. I don't know if you want to go into more detail on that, Colleen, but.
Well, I mean, I can tell you how I did it, although I don't have the number on hand. I just kind of took the, we know that our program costs about 355,000. And then I, estimated the number of days that it runs and how many total cubic yards we harvest in a full season. And then just kind of calculated what the daily cost was, and, an average, cubic yard total removed each day. And so that's basically how I calculated it, but I don't have it on hand.
But I think it was a very clever model, because I think going forward, if we can use that kind of a model to assess the cost benefit ratios in removing phosphorus, for instance, by different things that we do going forward, that will really help us in our short range and long range planning as to what projects we really should be pursuing.
Yeah, I did talk to Fred Lubnow about that in, in looking at the WIP, if we could prioritize the projects that would be, like the low hanging fruit, where are we going to be removing the most phosphorus for the lowest cost? And I think we understand that sewering the shoreline would be a really high phosphorus removal, but for a really high cost as well. So just kind of a means for prioritizing projects.
Colleen, this is Mark Crowley. Do you think we'd get a different price though from them if they had a contract for the summer? I thought that we understood that their price would be high because it was a very short job.
Yeah, there's some truth in that, definitely.
I do think we should ask them in the spring for an entire contract to see what their price would be.
Yeah. Even if we got their operators and used our machines,
By asking them for a proposal, you're keeping them engaged and thinking about next year.
Right, and we get a little more value of what their price would be on a full-time job versus a 1 or 2 weekend, kind of job.
Right. The mobilization costs are a lot, are heavy for a 2-day operation.
It may also allow them, if they had a contract, to buy more equipment and perhaps larger equipment if they knew they had a contract for the year, which they wouldn't do for 1 or 2 days.
Right.
Again, if we could get them to produce the operators and we had the equipment, we already have the equipment, so that would cut the cost down. All right.
Their machines are very different from what we have.
They are, but if we could get operators to run our machines, then we already own the machines, so. Anyway. Is this a good time, Fred, for you to get in with your?
Yeah, sure, I'm ready. Okay, Colleen, can you put up the proposals? And while she's doing that, let me give, I want to give some background because of the newer members of the commission. Every 10 years, the DEP produces a Lake Hopatcong water level management plan. The last one was produced in 2011. It's on the website. It's about 47 pages, and it's good reading. Anyway, about 7 years ago, I guess it was now, after a major drawdown, the lake failed to refill. There was a drought, and the marinas and the different concessions, the restaurants, really suffered. They had trouble filling their slips. There were a lot of financial losses, and they formed a group and decided to hire a lawyer, and they actually sued the DEP to see if they could stop these drawdowns. It went to court, and the settlement provided with the formation of the CAC, which is the Citizens Advisory Committee, which meets annually with the DEP, representative of all factions from the lake, much like the commission is, to advise the DEP on changes that should or could be made. But really, the final say has always been traditionally with the DEP, since the state of New Jersey owns the lake. Anyway, there was a tremendous amount of fighting over the lake level, you can imagine, and I began to work on proposals way back, I think it was 2015, to try to modify these drawdowns to make it more acceptable. I had a lot of lakefront experience, having lived in Mount Arlington on the lake, and now in Hopatcong for many, many years, since the 40s, and saw a lot of ice damage and the way repairs needed to be made, etc. We made a proposal, a 3-part proposal. The third part, which was the most controversial, had to do with the amount of drainage, the 13 cubic feet per second that was allowed or mandated had to be allowed to go over the dam. The change for that was really soundly rejected by the DEP, and so I've left that out of further considerations. The DEP really doesn't care that much about the drawdowns. In other words, they're willing to modify them depending on what the stakeholders of the lake want. So there's room for negotiation here. And as a matter of fact, the DEP agreed several years ago to reduce the annual 26-inch drawdown to 22 inches. And that's been effect, I think this is the 3rd year. Although they did continue the 5-year drawdown at 60 inches, just the way it was. They monitored this reduced drawdown of 4 inches less over the last couple of years, looking for stakeholder remarks, looking for whether there might be further damage. But in fact, we had fairly mild winters, and there was really very few, if any, reports of further damage. So right now, they're operating under this 22-inch for the regular drawdown. My proposal, which I'm bringing up tonight because we're about to enter these recommendations with the CAC, which you heard is meeting next week. And last time I was able to get the commission's backup in recommending the changes that were suggested. And you're seeing this for the first time, so I don't want to take a vote on it now, but just to review it, it's minor differences here. The yearly drawdown I'm suggesting should be reduced from 22 inches to 18 inches to protect docks. And again, the purpose of this is to prevent in low rain or drought conditions, low water levels, which is what we were suffering from, but haven't for some reason the last couple of years. So the idea is to conserve water in the lake. If this were done, if this was reduced another 4 inches, there would be 7 feet 6 inches at the dam, which is 7.5 feet. The drawdown could be started later on November 21st instead of the current November 17th, and be completed by December 15th, thus extending the boating season. And that would save an additional 4 inches of water. So that's my proposal for the annual drawdown, that small change of 4 inches. The 60-inch drawdown should be continued for major repairs and construction, but be quicker at 1.75 inches a day instead of the current 1.5 inches to allow completion by October 25th. The drawdown now, the 5-year drawdown, extends from September 22nd to October 25th. The refill would begin December 1st instead of December 15th, allowing dock work to be done in better weather and allowing 2 extra weeks for refill. And the lake would be allowed to refill to 7.5 feet over the winter. So basically, not changing anything in an extraordinary sense, but 2 minor changes to see if we can reduce the chance of not having enough water in the lake. Are there any questions about these proposals? Any comments?
Fred, what would have to occur for these proposals to be enacted? DEP would have to accept them?
Yes, basically. They'll be discussed by the whole CAC. The CAC will either agree to recommend them, may want more radical changes. My suggestions are really a compromise, trying to bring both sides together. But basically, the DEP has the final word.
And does Dr. Ludnow have any comments on what the impact of this change would be on water quality, or it's not really a water quality issue?
We're going, the CAC at the next meeting expects to hear some reports from experts in the DEP who will comment on that. So we're hoping to hear that as part of that meeting, not from Dr. Ludnow, but from the DEP experts themselves.
What are your preliminary thoughts, Fred?
Well, the thoughts are that
I meant the other.
Oh, the other.
The other thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Ludnow. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, anytime you can hold on to that water as much as possible, I'm all for. When you look at climate change, I mean, basically we are getting warmer and wetter, which may be one of the reasons why we haven't suffered through droughts. But with that said, not only do the models show that our part of the United States is getting warmer and wetter, but we also have larger swings. So that means we could easily, we haven't had a really nasty winter. We could have a nasty winter followed by a drought. So I think, this conservative approach of trying to manage the water as a valuable resource is important. And, drawing it down this time of year is always preferred than, say, in the spring when it's warmer weather and you can really stimulate algal blooms through the movement of water, the disturbance of the sediments. It's always better to do it, this time of year when temperatures will be low and biological activity will be minimal. I will be interested in hearing what DEP's experts have to say relative to the water quality impacts of the drought.
Yeah, one of the crazy things about all this is this was all came to a head because of drought conditions and not enough water for swimming and boating in the lake. Really a bad time. And if you look at today, right now on November 9th, the lake is a ½ inch below the top of the dam. I don't think anybody's ever seen that. I certainly have. Never this late in the year do we have this much water in the lake. It's extraordinary.
Okay, so I have a couple comments. The 60-inch drawdown port, I support that because Lord knows it's no fun to mix concrete in December. So if we can get the lake down faster, get the work done while it's warmer, and then shut the gate, I think that's wonderful. With respect to the proposal to go to 18 inches, I just want to give a little bit of history here from what I've been able to research. I've spent a lot of time studying this water level issue. I've been on the Citizens Advisory Committee since day one. The information that I've uncovered is that the annual drawdown started out at 36 inches. Then it was reduced to 30 inches. Then it was reduced to 26 inches. Now it's at 22 inches under a pilot program, which we haven't really seen the results of because we haven't had a significant winter. And now we want to go down to 18 inches. I think we're getting out ahead of our skis on this and possibly setting ourselves up for trouble. The two reasons for the annual drawdown that I've been able to uncover, first, if you lower the ice annually, you reduce the chance for damage to docks because of the creep of the ice. As it warms up, you get the later winter and it warms up and ice starts to expand. It starts to creep up the shoreline and push anything that's in its way out of its way. The other issue is that it was lowered annually to prevent or to actually help prevent downstream flooding because if we have a heavy spring and a lot of rain, it gives a little bit of a buffer, someplace for the water to go besides pouring downstream. So I think it might not be advisable to go from a pilot program, which we haven't really tested. We don't know what the outcome is because we haven't had a real severe winter, to just, get out ahead and go down to 18 inches. So while I support the proposal for the 60-inch drawdown, I have some very serious concerns about going to 18 inches.
Anyone else have any comments? So everybody just print out what Fred produced for us and study it and get some questions and let's have maybe some action on it. Is the next meeting before that CAC meeting, Fred?
No, the CAC meeting's coming up, but we don't have to take action.
Okay.
Wait till the next meeting.
Just take a look at it and think about it. And, we have opposing points of view, which is great. We can agree to disagree. And
one more thing on this, Fred, if I'm not mistaken, we voted on one of your proposals a while back, and it was actually submitted to the DEP. So how does the proposal that we voted on and approved last time differ from this? Because I don't remember the 18 inches. Is that something new?
Yeah, my original proposal actually was to bring it down to 16 inches. And that was the first part. And just to remind you, the second part was that the 5-year drawdown be done at 2 inches a day instead of the current 1.5. And the DEP rejected the second one completely because they felt that was too much of an outflow and might threaten several buildings downstream. So they rejected the part that you and I agreed to. So I this time modified it to make it 1 3/4, 1.75 inches per day, and see if that would be more acceptable to the DEP on the 5-year drawdown. But the first proposal to bring it down to 16 inches every year, they rejected, but they did agree to, as a pilot program, as you said, to reduce it from 26 inches to 22. And this proposal is different because I'm suggesting 18, not 16 inches. And let me add, the major risk from ice damage is really ice flow that occurs when the ice breaks up. And you get these big, you can have an acre of ice that weighs literally hundreds of tons moving across the lake. If that comes into your dock or your boathouse, nothing can stop that, no matter what the level of the lake is. That's the real danger. It's not so much the height of the water. I think that it's judicious for us to conserve water. That's what this is about. But thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Okay. If we're done with that, do we have any other new items to bring up? Okay, we're going to open the meeting to the public. Does anyone wish to be heard?
Yeah,
If anybody wants, Oh, sorry, I was going to say, if anybody wants to be heard, they could just use the reaction button there and
Okay.
thumbs up. Well, you don't. We hear you, Marty. You got you have the floor. But yeah, just in case anybody from the public, then I can see who's up.
No, thank you. Good meeting tonight. Just a couple items just in response to one. Yes, next mayor's meeting, we will put the weed harvesting on the agenda. Just because the whole meeting is an hour for the entire agenda, we kind of go a few minutes. You have about 5 minutes, Fred and Dan, so keep that in mind in your presentation.
You don't mean the weed harvesting, you mean.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, the bubblers.
The folks will actually have our materials ahead of time to look at, in particular, our proposal and our draft ordinance and things like that. They won't be reading it for the first time in those 5 minutes, correct?
Absolutely. Just get it to Colleen and we'll make sure it goes out to the mayors.
If she already has it.
Great. Okay. And the one thing I should have mentioned in the summary, and I know Brad can probably wax poetic on this, but Hopatcong did actually send down to DEP a contract for sewers on Hudson Avenue in Hopatcong, which would be the first sewers at Lake Hopatcong in over a decade. So that's really kind of a good news item, and it goes right with what Eric was talking about with what Jefferson's trying to do. And obviously, long term, that's the best thing probably we can focus on. So hopefully DEP will expeditiously review that contract.
Marty, that's already been done. It's already approved.
It's approved.
We've awarded the contract. We're just looking for a new start date, actually. So we
That's great.
Pretty quick. And the one thing I should have mentioned earlier was that the circulators in the Crescent Cove have been turned off. Basically, if they're not off now, they should be off within the day. So, but I think they're off now. That's
Great.
it.
And final item, unfortunately, as some of you already know, we lost one of our longtime merchants at the lake yesterday, Billy Orth, who longtime owner of the Jefferson House, passed away this weekend. So just wanted to mention that because I know a lot of you have worked with Billy over the years, and he's been on the lake for 50 years. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else from the public wishing to be heard? Going once,
See anybody?
twice,
Yeah,
close the public session. Okay.
I did have somebody raise their hand, Ron.
yeah.
You did? I didn't see it.
Brian Kramer raised his hand.
So this is Brian Kramer from Greenvest. We had done a presentation back in September. Fred had mentioned a supplemental package we submitted or that you received today. We joined this night just in case questions came up, and I'm sure you guys haven't had time to review. So during December meeting, we'd love to answer any questions. And that package was basically an effort to try to answer some of your questions about who our team was, et cetera. And then, we'll be prepared for the December meeting if you have questions specific on financing. I think there were several questions. I know Mr. Tessier had a few on that. So we'll plan on joining the December meeting if any questions come up.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Anyone else? I close the public meeting. We have any action items that we need to take care of, Colleen?
Yes. So we would need to take action on the weed harvesting budget that Melissa submitted.
Did everybody get a chance to look at it?
Yes.
Okay, I think there are items on there that we have to do. You did pare it down, right? We did.
No, it's the full, what we went over at the meeting last week for I rounded it to 105,000 because I think.
Yeah, it's not the it's not the memorandum of understanding. It's just to get parts and get stuff going on that garage and get parts so we can get these harvesters all back in shape.
No, but I did, Melissa, are you still on?
Yep, I am.
Oh, okay, sorry. I did have one question because, so you sent over the budget table that typically goes in the back of the MOU.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be part of this approval, right? So that included all of the salaries between June 30th and October 31st. Is that correct?
Right, both include hourly salaries. The one that looks like a spreadsheet that's part of the MOU, that one I believe includes the permanent salaries, which is not included in the other report that's a couple pages long.
Okay, so I just maybe it doesn't matter for the commission, you know, but just so that everybody has all the information. I know that we had looked for some clarification on who was covering the summer part-time salaries since there was not weed harvesting taking place. And, you know, during one of our meetings, it was mentioned that the DEP may be covering that. And I had heard from Mark Texel, you know, the same. So I just want to have some clarification as to whether DEP was covering the summer salary or if it was the commission who was covering that salary.
It should be the commission. I know we stated that earlier, you know, if there had to be that was something that maybe could be done, but with COVID and everything else, we just don't have the budget to cover any of those things. So it should be the commission covering it all. And Melissa, is that reflected in the budget you provided?
Yes.
If I may comment, maybe I don't have every piece of it, but I found this very confusing. Especially the last part, total for prices provided, 104,000, blah, 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 but excludes quotes needed from vendors noted in red and permanent staff salary plus fringe benefits. Well, I don't get what the total is here.
Okay, so there's some items that we still don't have a price for. For example, if we have to fix, I think a dump truck possibly, and some other items that were listed in the beginning of the report with red font. As you look through the report, you'll see we have exit signs that we need to repair in the Franklin building that I don't have a price for yet because we need to get an electrician to give us a quote on that. We needed some extra shelving, which I didn't have a price for when I put this together. We also need to get some repairs done for stainless steel pipes, fittings that need to be done. We don't have a quote for that. So what I was noting on that, when you're looking at that, Fred, on the bottom, is that this price that I provided of $104,000 counts everything that I have a price for on this list, but I was just trying to remind everybody that there are items on this list that still need to get prices for that we don't know of yet. We need to send it out and get a quote.
But excludes staff salary plus fringe.
Well, because at the time when I did this report, I didn't have that. In the other report, I was able to finally get that. And I did include.
So that's erroneous because that's the biggest part of this.
So Melissa, we could take out that phrase "and permanent salaries plus fringe benefits" because now you've included them.
They're included in the other report, not this report.
So according to this draft budget, we're paying 255 instead of 200 or 355.
Right, if you're looking at the draft budget.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
This is going to cost us 255,000 instead of 355,000 roughly. The 104 or 105, whatever you're calling it, is in addition to the expenses that we've had through today, plus the full-time salary of Mike for the whole year.
Before I answer that question, correct.
just so everybody understands.
which I noted in that report.
That's what the 52,000 is, Todd?
What's that?
That's what that 52,000 hourly salaries is?
No, that's the 52
That's the
is
seasonal people.
Correct. That is what I,
from now until June 30th, 2021.
correct. That's what the projected cost for hourly salaries will be.
So it's about $100,000 less than we spent last year.
Right, that's the bottom line she's got there, the 114.
104 plus 103, 104.
No, the 114 would be I don't want to call it a surplus, but what's not spent.
Unexpended.
Correct.
Not harvesting.
That's what you would have remaining after these projected costs.
To reach the 355.
Keeping in mind that still does not include the items that we need quotes for that we have not received quotes for yet.
Right.
If you
but
should
you're
decide
talking
to
maybe
get that.
$10,000 on that stuff that you don't have the quotes for.
Roughly.
But that 104 includes Mike's salary and benefits.
No, the 104 does not include Mike's salary. It includes the hourlies. But at the time that I did this report, which was weeks ago, I didn't have the fringe benefit costs for hourlies yet. On the draft budget, I do.
Melissa, when I add it up, it's closer to 301,000, no?
On the draft budget?
I'm looking at the one that you sent.
I don't think we all have the same papers.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I have the one that you're looking at, Fred.
105.
I'm looking at, Melissa, what you sent to Colleen on Friday at around a little bit before 3 o'clock.
Right, that's what I'm looking at.
Wasn't this updated?
I've only done one that I've submitted to Colleen, and that was the one that I just sent last week.
Yes, and then you sent the table, which I forwarded out to everyone. So there
Right,
should
that's
be.
what I'm referring to. I'm sorry. The table,
Oh.
the one that's a table, that I only created one for this fiscal year, which was the one that I just sent.
Colleen, is it possible for you to share that table so we can look at it on the screen right now?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. We don't have that table.
We have.
Yeah, Colleen sent it.
Hold on, I'll share it.
I have it. Everybody has it.
Just want to make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah, I have that.
So, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the bold numbers you need to add up, right? And
So
5.
you need to deduct from the total on top of 355 is what's usually going towards the weed harvesting program. And then the bold numbers below that, you need to deduct from the 355. And the blue bar on the bottom is what's left remaining available.
The math is correct.
Okay.
It's just hard to understand because it should be in different columns.
Accountants like those two columns.
So basically what you're looking at is for Mike, we're spending 90,250.
Through
That
June 30th, 2021.
Yes.
Right.
And then the rest is pretty self-explanatory. You're looking at the hourly costs spent to date. And the FY 2021 operating and part-time staff spent to date includes operational costs that have been spent so far, and what we've spent on hourlies so far. And then after that, I noted in there the estimated cost from that other report Oh, no, wait. Yeah.
So if I do the math, it's basically 240,000. That's what we're saying it's going to cost this year.
Yeah, that should be right.
Right, plus the 114 equals the 355.
355.
Right. The big difference there, and it's roughly basically what you have remaining, is the fact that you're not covering a permanent person. Because it would come out to basically the same cost you're spending for Michael there. So in the past, you had about 170 to 180,000 expenditures for permanent staff, and the rest was on operating and hourlies.
And we only have one now, so we're only
Correct.
about half of that. Okay.
Correct.
But if we hire the part-time mechanic, that's going to come out of the 114 at the bottom.
Yes.
Yes.
So, sorry, I'm going to point this out, but so you're saying that the only difference in cost for between a year when weeds were harvested and this year when no weeds were harvested is the cost of the full-time employee. Is that
Yes, that's
right?
Employee.
That, and you probably have saved some costs in fuel and disposal.
Disposal is big, yeah.
Because you know, fuel and disposal are a big chunk of the cost.
I have another concern that's related with the current situation of the motor vehicle bureaus, which are almost impossible to access and continue to be that way. What about our expected income from both license fees?
They came up with it this year, Fred, and this was the worst year, the worst piece of motor vehicle. When they shut down, we still got money when they finally opened up again. So going forward, it can't get any worse than it was.
I thought we were missing a quarterly payment.
You missed a quarterly payment because they held it back, the state. Yes.
Did they make it up? Did we get it?
No, I don't think so. We didn't get it, right, Colleen?
Sorry, what was the question? I missed that.
That quarterly part, the quarterly payment that they held up, did we ever get that back?
Yes.
We got it. When the money came in, Fred, we got it.
We did get it all.
We got it with our first quarter.
We got it late, but they held it.
Yeah.
So as of now, we think we can still expect that 500.
Absolutely.
Boy, you're optimistic.
It's a statute that you don't think motor vehicle is going to shut down. It's people are in line like crazy. There was more boats on the lake this year than last year.
Yeah, unlicensed boats.
Well, I don't know about that.
Now, Melissa, just one clarification for the group. So are you requesting the full 355?
No.
Because that's what it would appear to say on this document.
No, she's not.
Well, I based everything on that allocation, yes.
We're not going to give you 355 because we're going to
spending 355
minus 114.
Right. So that's your prerogative.
That's right.
Well, just so you're to draw attention to it, you know, this is only for the time up until October 30th. If we want to have a program between now and June 30th of next year, so that, you know, we would
Only
need
the part-timers.
additional money.
It's only the part-timer.
No,
also
the
errors.
5440 is for the spring, and the 51,989 for the spring.
The only thing that comes out of the 114 is that if this new guy takes the job, whatever you pay him between now and June 30th, that's the only thing that comes out of the 114. Otherwise, so to speak, you're ahead to 114.
And what about replacement parts that they're not aware of now that may need to be ordered?
We'd have to deal somewhere in insurance. I don't know what they had for insurance. They're self-insured. So somewhere that damage, there might be some deductible, 10,000 deductible or whatever they got. They're self-insured.
I
But
mean,
somewhere there should be some insurance money to cover that boat.
yeah. Is it assumed that since the other harvesters weren't used or were barely used, that they won't require any overhauls or?
They had minimum maintenance. Yes, you're right, because they weren't used. They're sitting there clean as a whistle.
So there shouldn't be any surprise.
No, not on those, no.
Well, what I will add though is the fact that they weren't on the water is a plus, but it also is something you have to keep in mind. We didn't get a chance to fully put them out to work. So when you do maintenance on them, you get to put them together, but you don't fully test it until you put it on the water. So we only had a day of them out there. There is a chance something can come up, Fred. So I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna say hopefully it won't, but there is a chance because we didn't get to fully run them through a couple of cycles to make sure. The summer before, we were out there and after 2 weeks, we had a break. So just keep that in mind.
And
Mark
also
Crowley.
mention that, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I don't see anything on this budget here of the 114 that shows any parts.
The projected operating costs is parts, some items from the list that I had given to Colleen and Ron on another
But I'm
report.
saying this shows that out of the 355, there's 114.8 left. And it's not showing any parts. So
Isn't the 51 and 45, in some parts in there, Melissa, is that what you?
It's in
Well-
the 52 number, 51,989.
Right.
So we don't have a full parts list because we haven't disassembled to assess.
You
if
should have
we-
labeled it. And Mark's right, you should have labeled it in the 51,989. You should have said in parts, repair parts or some repairs.
I don't know how I can vote for a budget that doesn't show all the anticipated parts, and we're voting on half a budget.
No,
Doesn't
but
make
we
sense.
never do that. We never do that. So that's operating costs. In the state, we just call that operating cost. There's two-
And it's impossible for me to tell you now what parts we're gonna need.
We never, every year, in the 355, they use what they use and what they didn't use, they gave us back.
Yeah, right. So what Melissa's budget is showing is she's anticipating needing 114,000 less than last year.
Yes.
So my recommendation would be with this is, you give us a number to authorize what you want us to spend on the program and we'll do that. And if later on we need more money and you guys want to pay for items to fix things and do things, then we can go that route. But I would recommend at least probably 255, right? And then whatever's left over, we give to you.
I would take the exact number, the 355 minus the
114.
114 something. What is it? 114,815? Is that 815?
Well, my concern is this budget was calculated prior to hiring a pretty expensive seasonal employee.
$19 an hour, yes. And he doesn't want to work more than 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah, but that's going to add up.
Yeah, it is going to add up. But you had a full-time guy, you're saving. You're saving 51.
No, but I mean, that 114 that's left over, Ron, doesn't include the extra cost for that one seasonal.
It does not. It does not include him. I
So
said
that's
that.
why I'm saying maybe instead of cutting it so close, give us a little leeway. Go to 255, authorize us for, and then hopefully that should be enough to cover all that.
And then we're ahead 100,000. Okay.
Right.
We could do that. That's a suggestion. Anybody else have any feelings about that?
That's fine. I just had a question on the one sheet that Colleen gave us. It said projected weed harvesting program from October through June. On there it says Borough of Franklin sewer water $500 and Carroll need repair of roof leak due to safety concerns, mold remediation, $4,500.
That's in the garage, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's a Franklin building.
And so the commission's picking up those costs.
Yeah, but we don't pay any rent, so we're just
Yeah,
maintaining.
I was just curious.
And most of the, not the roof, I'm sure, but the painting and all was done by our guys. They scraped it and painted it. They just bought the paint.
Is there a written agreement for the use of that building?
Yes. Oh, no, not for that building. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Leeds County.
So we're just using it because they let us use it, or DEP using it because the borough lets them use it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in past, all we've asked is that the maintenance of the building be taken care of by the program, because that's
Which
only
is
the
fair.
programs we're
You know,
using.
you're not paying rent. That's a fair thing. Anybody have any thoughts? Somebody mentioned it, just to put it on there for some, start the discussion. We pay him $255, and that allows a little room in there for the new guy we're gonna hire and whatever that is, and see how it goes. It's 100,000 less than previous year.
I make a motion, we go with the 255.
Second.
Discussion. Call a roll, Colleen.
Crowley,
No.
Fish,
Yes.
Overcamp,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Zowski,
Yes.
Kravs,
Yes.
Steinbaum,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Will Susan,
Yes.
Smith.
Yeah. Okay. So we're good till June 30th now. Okay. All right, what else? Colleen, by the way, instead of them deducting it from what they get, we already have all the money?
Well, no, we don't, but we're projected to get it in quarterly payments.
So how much of the 500,000, how much are we ahead at this point? How much do we have of the 500,000, the new 500,000?
Right now, we've received 1 quarter payment plus what was left over from last year.
So what's over left last year, that's our money. So you got 1/4 of the 500.
Mhm.
So what'd you get, 175? Something?
120.
125?
125.
125, okay. So hold the one, don't pay them any money, because as the rest of that money comes, let them deduct it like they did in the past. Don't pay them anything out of the 125.
Okay.
You may in the end have to end up paying them 25,000 because that, well, no, you won't. Just sit on the 125.
All right.
And they can collect the way they always collected. When the money came from church, they took it. And then until they get their
Yeah,
255.
we'll probably have to drop some sort of MOU in order to do
Yes, we
that.
drew up the MOU, we mentioned in there, but again, don't make any payments.
Okay.
Money's better in our account than their account.
Can I just ask a question? At the moment, the way we've been billing is we been getting invoices and then the commission has been paying that. We should continue to do that until there's an MOU in place, correct?
Yes, correct. But keep track of all your spending, Colleen, so we know how much of that 255 you spent. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'll let Michael know that he can move forward on all those items then, Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so, yeah. We just passed the budget, yeah?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're paying them, keep them busy. Anything else?
The only thing I was thinking, Ron, that letter we had about not destroying evidence from the lawyer.
Yes,
Well,
we're not destroying it. We don't have any evidence.
I know that. Maybe we should forward that to Murphy.
You could do that, okay.
Just
probably send it to him, but we don't have any evidence.
Correct, but better safe than sorry.
Okay, you're right.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
All
Ladies,
right. Good night,
appreciate it.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good night.
See you next.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.